Hello everyone. Today's topic is basal ganglia. Basically, the word ganglia is a misnomer because, by the definition, ganglia refers to the collection of cell bodies outside the central nervous system. But the correct term should be the basal nuclei because nuclei refers to the collection of cell bodies within the central nervous system and situated deep to the basal part of white core of cerebral hemisphere. Functionally, it includes the lentiform nucleus, that is the globus pallidus, external and internal segment. Both are collectively referred to as paleostriatum. Then putamen and caudate nucleus, both are collectively called as neostriatum or striatum. Then it also contains subthalamus and substantia nigra of the midbrain. Diagrammatically, we can represent them as this is the caudate nucleus, the head part. This is the thalamus. This is the lentiform nucleus consisting of the globus pallidus external and the internal segment. These are the fibers of internal capsule, the anterior limb, the genu, and the posterior limb. Lying lateral to the lentiform nucleus is the fibers of the external capsule, and more lateral to it are the gray matter known as claustrum. Now the connections of basal ganglia. It is having afferent connection, which consists of thalamostriate, nigrostriate, and corticostriate fibers. The efferent connections are globus pallidus, which forms the major efferent connection, and outflow mainly grows from the globus pallidus to the thalamus directly by the thalamic fasciculus and via the subthalamus to the internal capsule. There are certain interconnections between thalamus, subthalamus, substantia nigra, and globus pallidus. Now comes the functions and the pathways. First, there is direct pathway. It includes the cerebral cortex, the thalamus, the subthalamus. This is substantia nigra, and this is the lentiform nucleus, globus pallidus, and putamen. All the fibers which are blue in color are the excitatory, while these black fibers are inhibitory. So this is what excitatory, inhibitory, and excitatory again. Normally, when we do not plan any kind of movement, then what happens is that these fibers fire naturally, and all these are not firing. So these inhibit the thalamocortical excitatory fibers, so the cortex remain inhibited. But as soon as we plan some movement, then these intercortical fiber fires stimulate these descending corticostriatal fibers, which again excite these fibers. These are inhibitory fibers. They release GABA in the internal segment of the globus pallidus, so these are inhibited, so these don't fire, and hence the cortex is activated. This is the direct pathway in which the cortex is activated. Now there is another pathway known as indirect pathway. The requirement of the indirect pathway is that in order to smoothen the voluntary movements, that is to inhibit the antagonistic muscle. For example, if you want to perform flexion, then in order to inhibit the extensor, in order to smoothen the voluntary movement, this is required. This is somewhat different in such a way that first we have some excitatory, then inhibitory again, then there is excitatory, then inhibitory, and then excitatory. So when it fires, it stimulates these neurons, then these inhibits these neurons. So if there is more inhibition here, then it will inhibit here less. So these are not inhibited to such a great extent, so these release glutamine. So these inhibitory fibers are then excited by this glutamine released, then these fiber release GABA and inhibit these neurons. So thalamocortical fibers are inhibited, so all those fibers which are connected to the antagonistic muscles are less stimulated here because of inhibition in the thalamus. Therefore this is how it antagonizes the action of the opposite muscles. Now we will talk about the role of dopamine in the direct pathway. The dopamine is released from the substantia nigra pars compacta part into the putamen, which through the D1 receptors activate this direct pathway and hence facilitate the action of the excitatory muscles. In the indirect pathway, again the substantia nigra releases the dopamine from the pars compacta part, and then it will act here through D2 receptors, but here the action is different. It will act through the D2 receptors and it will inhibit the inhibition of the indirect pathway. So D2 receptor will be inhibited by the dopamine released, so this whole pathway is inhibited. Functions of basal ganglia. It is responsible to plan and initiate movements. It is also responsible for fine-tuning and smoothing of voluntary movements. This is done by inhibition of the antagonistic muscles by indirect pathway, as I told earlier. It has some cognitive functions such as thinking and understanding. It controls subconscious gross movements like swinging of arms during walking, and it also controls group of movements responsible for facial expressions. Disorders of basal ganglia. First is Parkinsonism or Parkinson disease. This is the most common neurodegenerative disorder after Alzheimer's disease. It occurs after the age of 50 years due to deficiency of dopamine following a lesion in the substantia nigra. The cause, it occurs due to the release of inhibition by dopamine on the D2 receptors in the indirect pathway, as I taught earlier. Features, there are many features, but the most three cardinal features are rigidity, resting tremors, and hypokinesia. First is hypokinesia. It refers to the generalized slowing of the movement and absence of associated movements like arm swinging during walking. This is due to the fact that the cortex is less stimulated. Therefore, there is a difficulty in initiation of any kind of movement. Even the facial muscles are unable to initiate contraction, so face become mask-like or expressionless. Then resting tremors. In putamen, certain cholinergic neurons are present which function exactly opposite to the dopamine, but normally they are balanced by the normal amount of dopamine. In Parkinson disease, there is deficiency of dopamine, so cholinergic fibers overfire and they cause resting tremors and pill rolling movements. These tremors are resolved whenever the patient tries to initiate any kind of movement. Then the third cardinal feature is rigidity. In this, all range of movement becomes difficult. It is also referred to as lead pipe rigidity. The main cause of this rigidity is as follow. Normally, there are fibers from the cortex to reticular formation known as cortico-reticular fibers, which are known to inhibit the reticular formation. But in the Parkinson disease, these fibers are less stimulated, so they are unable to inhibit the reticular formation. The reticulospinal fiber are known to increase the tone in the lower motor neurons, which can increase the tone in muscles. So as they are inhibited, so the reticular formation overfire and there is an increase in the tone of both flexor and extensors. L-DOPA is the treatment of in the Parkinsonism because dopamine cannot cross blood-brain barrier. So L-DOPA is given. Now are the lesions associated with hyperkinesia. First is the chorea. These are quick, jerky, purposeless, involuntary movements of limbs. These are like this. The chorea can be broadly classified into two types: Sydenham's chorea and Huntington's chorea. Sydenham chorea occur commonly in children, while Huntington chorea occur in adults. Sydenham chorea, the pathophysiology is like this: antibodies are produced by the streptococcal bacterial infection, which combine with the proteins of neostriatum and cause lesion in them, while in Huntington chorea there is a degeneration of GABAergic neurons. In Sydenham chorea, recovery is possible, while in Huntington chorea there is no recovery. Explanation is like this: as I taught earlier, in the indirect pathway, if there is a degeneration of GABAergic neuron, for example, if this GABAergic neuron is degenerated, then what will happen is this whole indirect pathway will become reversed. So here there was a inhibition of the cerebral cortex. So the corticospinal fiber were less fired, and there was inhibition. But now, since it has become reversed, so it will be more stimulated, and instead of less stimulation of the corticospinal fiber, they are more stimulated, and therefore there will be hyperkinesia. Now, how to differentiate between these two chorea is very simple. Just look at their age. If they are patients with chorea of 5 to 15 years, then it is Sydenham chorea, and if they are adult with the age of 30 to 45, then it is Huntington's chorea. The next disorder is acidosis. These are slow sinus twisting movements which commonly involve the distal parts of limbs such as fingers and thumb. These occur due to lesion in the neostriatum or pallidum.
So you're curling your hands a pizza style?
Valismus. This is the next disease. These are irregular violent bursts of movements in the proximal extremities or the trunk, and this is appreciated in the opposite limb. This occurs due to the lesion in subthalamus by some vascular lesion. This is very important that these occur in subthalamus, and since it relays on the ipsilateral cortex, and we know that cortex fiber after descending they decussate, so that is why there is a lesion in the, or there is the opposite limbs are most affected. The disease may be restricted to one limb, monovalismus, or it can involve both upper and lower limb of the opposite side. This is known as hemivalismus.